So I saw the Emoji movie. Yeah, that Emoji movie. The one from Sony. I went by myself yesterday on a Sunday, paid $10 to go see it, and I sat down there in a theater and no one else was there. It was just me alone in a big theater with the Emoji movie. All I was thinking about was watching Game of Thrones and Twin Peaks later, but unfortunately, I was there and I was already in this. It's like war. You can't go back once you're already in the trenches. So here's my review of the Emoji movie. Oh boy. Is it terrible? No. Is it good? No. No, it's not good. To the movie's credit, before I really get into the thick of the review, it's not the worst thing I've seen like I thought it was going to be. It's also not even the worst film I've seen from Sony recently. And I would go so far to say that it's not the worst animated film I've seen in recent years. I thought Home was a much worse movie, and Trolls. This isn't a good film, mind you. Don't get me wrong. Its biggest crime, really, more than anything, is that it's meh, which is kind of funny because the film follows a meh emoji who can show all these different emotions and faces. And I went in with all these different emotions. I went in thinking I was going to hate the movie or maybe surprisingly like it. And throughout the whole thing, I was meh. So, in a weird way, as the character became more emotional, I became less emotional. God, this movie. It's just its biggest crime is that it's redundant, I guess. Is that it's too similar to other films you've seen in recent years, and it's clear that Sony's ripping those films off and trying to capture the audience from those films. This is the Lego Movie, Inside Out, Zootopia, and Wreck-It Ralph if you strip them down to just their bare bones elements and slapped it together. If you took a lot of the ideas from the Lego Movie, like everyone's an individual and creative, and you're getting brainwashed by this society, and some hero has to break out and go on a journey with a girl. It's got the Inside Out thing even more so, that they're all inside of this kid's Alex phone. Just like they were inside the girl's mind and Inside Out, they're inside a cell phone, and you keep gutting back and forth between the kid on the cell phone as a teenager and to the emojis inside the phone, and then they have to travel through his phone, and it's so like Inside Out. Also, a lot of stuff from Wreck-It Ralph. He's already in this one role as an emoji, like Ralph was as a villain in this video game. And then it tries to do the thematic stuff and social commentary that was in Zootopia about acceptance. Like I said, it's just slapping together all these movie ideas. But the problem is they took so many of those ideas from those other films, be it visually, with the characters, with the story, and they didn't add anything to it. They just copied a bunch of things from these other movies. And I'm not kidding you, this movie is just a copy and paste job of those films. There's no way to look at it any other way. There's not an original idea in this entire movie. They just stole a bunch of ideas from those films and stripped them down with cheaper looking animation, lazy characterization, really boring world building, really boring environment, and the worst jokes I've seen in a while. This movie's not funny. See, you could forgive the movie for a lot of its problems, and I mean most of its problems. The movie has rushed storytelling. It's way too fast. They just skim over things without thinking about it. They do a terrible job building the world and giving you a sense of geography and establishing this universe. It's very bland looking visually. The animation moves well, and the director's not bad at keeping things going at a pace. You know the way it's cut and put together isn't so much bad, but after a while you just get kind of bored after the first. I'd say after the first 40 minutes the film starts to get boring. For about a half hour you're kind of like following it. It's not bad, but it's not good. You're just watching. And then after that point you're waiting for it to be over. It drives you crazy. Heavy-handed messaging in this film too. They're so heavy with their messages. They just tell you what the story's about and what the themes are about and what the characters are about. They don't show you and let it play out naturally. Everyone's just saying all the time how they feel and how the world should see them and how things should really be. I mean, it's insanely heavy-handed. They're trying to have this progressive message of unity and be yourself. And in fact, I don't even know what the message was. They tried to cover so many things. I don't know if this was a commentary on social media, if this was talking about how we're separated on the internet today more than we are in reality. they don't even get internet culture right. They have this bit throughout the movie about internet trolls, where internet trolls just show up randomly and then they throw them away in their trash. It's like, that's not how internet trolls work. Internet trolls like attack you in a response on Twitter or Facebook or on YouTube or something. They don't just randomly show up places, and you can't take a troll and put them in your trash bin. It just doesn't work that way. It's like they just thought, oh, internet trolls, let's do that. That'll be funny. The kids will like that. But it doesn't work as a joke. Because if you're going to make fun of internet trolls, you need to actually make the joke that relates to what an internet troll is. They don't. The whole movie's this way. They go, oh, look, this is the thing that's on your cell phone, or this is an app or something. But they don't really go into how it works or make it any way where you could connect to it in a way that's funny or satirical. They're just referencing it. Like, Inside Out referenced a lot of things, but then it would do clever things with it, like when they went to the abstract thing. Like, and then they all started to change into these random abstract objects. In this movie, they're just like, oh, hey, we're in this app. And then they spend the rest of the scene in the fucking app. Like, there's a point in this movie where they go to a Just Dance app. And for, like, it felt like 20 minutes. I'm sure it was more like 5 minutes. The lead characters just dance to songs over and over and over again. It's just the main meh emoji and this girl emoji, like, dancing around and looking at each other. And I mean, they do this forever. There's not really any dialogue. There's nothing really. They're not really developing the characters here. They're not really doing much. It's just like, hey, do you know this song? Do you know this song? In fact, it was like they were trying to get the audience to hear a song they liked or something and just make you go, oh, I know the song, I like this song, and just get you in that way instead of, actually making a scene work. In fact, it kept reminding me of that scene from White Chicks. It was sort of something like this.
How did you know? I love this song. Downtown, walking fast, faces fast.
Alright, I take that back, because if the movie had done that, that would have been fucking awesome. So scratch that. They should have done that. But they commit the biggest crime with animated films is indulgent dance numbers. When they get into that Just Dance app, which is right before the third act, you could tell the director, the producers, nobody knew where this movie was going, and they didn't know how to pad it out, because this movie's only about 85 minutes long, and it has a short film at the beginning of it from Gandhi Tartakovsky that's a Hotel Transylvania short. And it was so nice to see a good animation director actually make something before this. But when you go into the movie, you could tell they didn't really have much of a script. And if they did, God, it was a bare-bones script. Basically, the meh emoji goes to his first big day on the job inside the cell phone where they scan your emoji, and then the kid picks the emoji to send to a girl on his phone. But the meh emoji screws up, and he can't keep one face, so it screws everything up, and the kid's going to delete his phone. And everyone's worried that they're going to die and he's going to get rid of it. Because they pretty much make it like if you get deleted and off the phone, you're dead. You're just fucking dead. Which actually, I think was the coolest part of the movie was the deletion stuff. Like whenever they showed things getting deleted in an app or something. That was actually kind of cool. But, so basically the meh emoji, he screws up. And then he has to go on a journey with another emoji played by James Corden, who's the absolute worst character in the film. Oh my god, I'm not a fan of James Corden, his show, or anything he does, but fuck, he's bad in this movie. He is the worst sidekick I've seen in an animated film in a long time. He doesn't have any motivation or emotional substance that isn't at the level of like a 3-year-old's understanding. I mean, this film is made for very small children. It's not your typical animated film where it's made for kids, but there's still a lot of jokes for adults to follow, and the plot's kind of thought out enough for everyone. This is a film that has the emotional substance of children, like little children, like 3 to 5-year-olds. And the jokes are at that level. Like, this movie could have gotten a pass for its cliche plot, its bland animation, its boring characterization, if it was funny. I've seen plenty of animated films that aren't that great in a lot of ways, but the jokes are awesome. Like, there's a joke every 30 seconds that's laugh out loud funny. kind of like a really, really good sitcom. A good sitcom has really good one-liners throughout it, so you can overcome the crappy, way that they film it and the way they do it, and you have to rely on the laugh track. But I wrote down some jokes from this movie just to show you guys the level of humor that's in the Emoji Movie. And I mean, these are some of the best jokes in the film. These are supposed to be the big laugh out loud jokes. Early on in the movie, the meh emoji runs into some monkey emojis. He says, they say to him, "We have business to attend to." He says, "What kind of business?" They say, "Monkey business." Later, there's the shit emoji, played by Patrick Stewart, who comes with his family out of the bathroom, yelling, "We're number two, we're number two." Later on, he says, "I'm just doing my duty." And then later on, he tells another character, "I think you're making too much of a stink out of this." Yes, that's probably the funniest joke in the movie. I know. Oh boy. So that's the thing about it. If the movie was funny, you could give all that other stuff a pass. Like, I thought Wreck-It Ralph was a really cliche movie and had a lot of stuff I'd seen before. But it had a lot of funny moments and a lot of good side gags and visual jokes that kind of kept me with it. Same thing with Zootopia. Zootopia's got so much going on visually, it didn't even need a good story. That was just a plus. However, this movie, it's like relying on the jokes and comedy. It thinks it's a comedy, and that's what's going to kind of save it. It's like, well, hey, if we make this movie funny, and we do a lot of really funny jokes, that'll carry it over. The problem is, these jokes are... I mean, goddamn, who thought these were funny? These are jokes you think up in 5 seconds. Like, what would a shit emoji joke say? What would an internet troll joke be? And they didn't even think out a clever joke. You could have had a really clever joke with internet trolls. You really could have. I would have loved that. But they don't do anything with it. It's just like a visual, like, hey, look, there's a troll. Also, I got these weird Sausage Party vibes, like they were trying to do things from Sausage Party. It kept making me thinking, man, if this film was rated R, it would be a lot better if they could actually really go into the internet. Because they almost imply at one point, like, what could a teenage boy want to hide from his parents? And it was like, oh, porn? It would have been great if they would have went into a porn part of the kid's phone where he had porn downloaded and shit. Because they do this terrible stuff with, like, illegal downloading and free music and all this stuff that feels kind of outdated the way they talk about it. The way they talk about emojis and apps and internet and just in the trending and all that stuff. It feels like a movie that should have come out 3 or 4 years ago than right now. It's hard to explain, but it doesn't feel like a modern movie or a modern telling of these events. It feels like a really old story. But when I was watching the film, I couldn't help but think that, there was a movie here with this Alex kid, right? This teenager, this kid wanting to talk to this girl, this John Hughes movie, right? And then the emojis being a reflection of teenage emotions and how conflicting they are and how much they change. So while the emojis in the film are learning different emotions and understanding them for the first time, the teenager, Alex, is understanding these emotions for the first time. The problem is Alex isn't the main character or even in the movie that much. He has maybe... I think he had 5 or 6 scenes in the movie, and he's barely in it. He doesn't have dialogue. We never really get to see his life, his home life, who he is. It just doesn't work as well as it did in Inside Out. And the biggest issue is that the parallels between him and the emojis doesn't come across. It feels like 2 separate stories. I will say, though, I did like the ending. Without spoilers, the last 5 minutes before a terrible dance number at the end, they start playing music again and have everyone dancing, because it's an animated film. People have to dance to pop songs. The last few minutes, there's this moment where the kid's gonna send a text and his phone's almost deleted, and it's actually pretty good. I'll say to this movie's credit, I'm trying to be as fair as I can. That scene isn't that bad. In a good movie, that scene would have really worked. It just doesn't work because by that point in the movie, you're out of it. You want it to be over. I was falling asleep. And this movie, like I said, is only about 85 minutes long. And at about the 45-minute mark, I started to drift off and get tired. Because it just starts repeating itself. You realize it's not going anywhere. They just go to one place on the kid's phone. They have the kind of interaction they've been having the whole movie. Then they go somewhere else on the kid's phone. It's them trying to be Pixar and missing what makes a movie like Finding Nemo work, or Up, and the character dynamics. When 2 people that you don't think are going to end up together go on this journey to find themselves and discover the world around them. The reason Pixar movies, the classic ones, worked, like Finding Nemo, is the constant jokes are witty and hilarious. There's so many funny bits in Finding Nemo. And the themes aren't obvious. The depth and stuff that's in Finding Nemo or in Up is subtly revealed to you as the movie goes on. So when you get to the end, you get hit with this emotional wallop of like, oh, that's what this movie was. That's pretty impressive. This movie doesn't do that. You get within the first few minutes what this movie is. And that's all it is the rest of the movie. I'll talk about things I like, though, before I get to the end of this. Maya Rudolph as, like, the smiley emoji, she is great in this. She's the villain of the story, and that's not a spoiler. They reveal she's the villain, like, right off the bat. She's terrific in this. She smiles in every scene, but she says really evil, creepy things, and it works. It just totally works. Like, as the movie goes on, she gets creepier, and it's so funny where a guy's like, you know, you said that while you're smiling, but you seem like you mean that in an ominous way. And she's like, I'm always smiling. And it really works. Like, it's a funny idea. And I got to give them credit for that. They actually pulled that off. Also, Mez's parents, played by Stephen Wright and Jennifer Coolidge, they're terrific. I actually would have preferred to watch the movie from the parents' point of view, with them trying to find their son. Because they're always stuck as meh emojis. So while their son's gone, they want to react to it like they want to be upset, but they can't. So there's these great moments where they're like, oh no, we have to go find our son. I hope he's okay. And it worked for me. I think that was actually a funny idea. It might have just been the two voice actors, but see, the joke was consistent. I got that joke. Like, okay, they can't show emotion. Or the smiley emoji. She always has a smile, but she does all these different things that aren't happy. Those are clever ideas, really. But those are the only things in the movie that they thought out past the basic idea of it being an emoji. TJ's Miller character is the most bland protagonist in an animated film that you could imagine. The side characters, Jailbreak, played by Anna Faris, the hacker emoji, she's terrible. She's just the Lego Movie girl. I mean, she even looks like her. It's fucking ridiculous. And the yellow emoji thing, they look kind of like the Legos in the Lego Movie. And I'm really not trying to say they ripped all that stuff off, but you just can't stop thinking about it when you watch the movie. You're like, God, this feels so... Like, it feels like a copy and paste job. It never feels like its own movie. Ever. Which I guess could have worked in its own way if it had been about emojis never being original, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck this movie was trying to say. I couldn't figure it out. And I don't think it had anything to say. It felt like they just took a cliche, oh, accept everyone message, people should be who they are, and that's about as far as it goes. It doesn't actually deal with anything beyond that in the same way like Inside Out did, where Inside Out kind of looks at depression. This film, I don't know what they were looking at, really. I can't tell you what the message of this movie was. They jumble around so many different messages and ideas, they couldn't stick to one consistent thing. So it just feels like a mishmash. I like the voice actors for the most part. I think most of them did a good job. I actually think T.J. Miller probably did one of the better jobs in the movie. His voice worked pretty well. James Corden, his writing was just so bad. He's so fucking unfunny in this. I mean, you talk about unfunny jokes. Holy shit, they shouldn't have called this the Emoji Movie. They should have called it the Normie Movie. Because that's what it's like. Everything in this is like Internet Normie 101. Like for somebody who just started getting on the internet. It felt like a movie made by your mom who's like in her 40s and 50s that just started doing Facebook or Twitter and is sharing memes and stuff to you all day and thinks it's so cool. And she hasn't been following meme culture for like the last 15 years or so. That's legitimately how it feels. It feels like somebody who doesn't understand the internet trying to talk about it and just kind of missing the mark and missing the really clever jokes they could have made. Because you can make a good movie out of anything. This didn't have to be a bad movie and it didn't have to be a lazy movie. But this is what Sony does. They try to make a movie for everyone and they keep the unique things away that would make the movie stand out. They didn't want Ghostbusters to be unique. They don't want Dark Tower to be weird and unique. They don't want this movie to be weird and unique. They made it for $50 million, which is a low budget for an animated film, but it's not blowing away any box office records. It's probably going to do okay. It might make $150 million worldwide or more. I mean, it'll probably make a profit, but it's not going to be like this huge hit animated film like I think they thought it was going to be. Why even make this film? There's so many original animated films you could have made and so many talented directors you could have hired, and they decided to go with something that really feels like it's for small children. I do not see how adults can enjoy this movie except for, the kind of people who cackle and laugh at every stupid joke when you're in the theater. We've all had that experience. It's not a very good movie. Like I said, it's not terrible or a piece of shit. Like, it's not just total garbage. There is some competency here. The movie does move well. It's not too long. The voice actors are trying. There are some clever ideas. I've seen worse animated films. I definitely thought Minions was a lot worse than this and a lot more boring. But this falls into that pattern of just being boring and forgettable. And I was kind of upset with that because when I went to go see the movie, I was really excited about reviewing it and talking shit about it and how terrible it was. Or I was excited about maybe going, hey, maybe I'm the one guy who liked this movie. Because as you know, it has like 8% on Rotten Tomatoes. Actually, there was a guy who really liked this movie. That guy who got caught, or accused of pleasuring himself during the movie. Yeah, some guy got caught pleasuring himself during the movie. So that guy must have really been enjoying it in a way that I didn't think was possible. So outside of that guy, I don't see this becoming a classic. It's going to be one of those films you click on Netflix to try to keep your kids distracted for a little while. It's going to be a daycare, and it's not something that's going to last the test of time. Let me look real quick. Who wrote this? Tony Leonidas, Leondis, and Eric Siegel. And Tony Leondis directed the film. And I think Tony Leondis said he wanted this to be Toy Story, which is fucking ridiculous. It's like, come on, really? This is Toy Story? When it's clearly a ripoff of so many other recent films and feels nothing like Toy Story, like at all. It has nothing in common with Toy Story. It's... God, I'm trying to think of more to say. There just isn't much to say about this movie. He goes on a journey. It's kind of shitty. It's something you've seen 1,000 times before, and the ending's okay, and if it wasn't for the really bad dance number segment of this film, and the awful jokes, the jokes are bad throughout. From the very first minute, the jokes, that monkey business joke is in the first, couple minutes of the movie. If it wasn't for all that, I wouldn't have had that much of a problem with this movie. I would have just said, it's mediocre, it's all it is, but that stuff keeps it from being even mediocre. That stuff really, really hurts it. I love it. It even says on Wikipedia the film was inspired by the director's love of Toy Story, wanting to make a new take on the concept. He began asking himself, what is the new toy out there that hasn't been explored? At the same time, Leondis received a text message with an emoji, which helped him realize that this was the world he wanted to explore. In fleshing out the story, he considered having the emojis visit the real world. It sounds like this guy made all this shit up, like, I got this magic text while I was thinking about Toy Story. It's like, shut the fuck up, dude. No, you didn't. Sony gave you this, told you to copy these other movies, and that's what you did. Don't try to give it this depth that isn't there. You weren't inspired. This movie has nothing in it that's inspired. That's ridiculous. I had some notes. So, okay, yeah, rush storytelling, heavy-handed themes, bad characterization outside of Smiley and the parents. All the other characters are bland and only two-dimensional and don't really have an arc that works. And, misunderstanding of the jokes that they're trying to make and what they're commenting on. It actually doesn't have a good commentary on anything relating to the internet. And the only thing I could say about the movie that they seemed to pull off with some subtlety was the teenager Alex and the stuff with him and the girl. I thought that stuff actually worked. And I actually kind of wanted to watch that movie that followed Alex, and the emoji stuff was kind of the side story. But focusing on the emojis and making Alex the side story, I think was actually to the detriment of the film. I think it would have been a better film had they made Alex the lead when you're watching it. It's just a better movie. Like that stuff that's happening when he's in class or what's going on, it's just not as stupid. It doesn't have the stupid jokes. I can't. It's not as annoying. It's not as in your face. Really boring animation, though. Like, the emojis they always look the same. The environments are really bland. It just looks like your cell phone. It doesn't look that different from anything else. They didn't seem to spend extra time really on making anything about it. I mean, I can't think of one visual thing in the movie that stood out for me. I mean, it just looked like so many other movies I've seen, and it didn't. Yeah, I can't think of anything stand out about it. I don't think the director's necessarily a bad director. He seemed to know how to kind of put a movie together and make a sequence flow, but that's about it. And there is an action sequence near the end of the movie that's kind of cool too, that I like. So that's as nice as I can be. I'm sorry if this review isn't as harsh as you were hoping it was going to be, but this film is, it just lacks personality. It doesn't have enough personality to make you feel one way or the other. The weirdest irony of the film is that it being about a meh emoji and trying to show you how to not see things that way, but it makes you feel meh while you're watching it. So this just continues Sony's downward spiral and a lack of quality control. They just shit this out. They could have made Gandhi Tartakovsky's Popeye film, which I think would have been a great flick, and I really love that test footage he released, but instead they thought, fuck it, let's make the Emoji Movie. To their credit, they kept the budget low, but this film doesn't look like it's going to make $100 million or anything like that domestically, so who knows how much profit they'll end up making, and I know I don't see them making a sequel to this anytime soon. So at the end of the day, it's just another crappy animated film released during the summertime to try to counter program to the big blockbusters that are out there. But beyond that, tell me what you think in the comment section if you've seen the movie. What's your opinion on it? Like the video and subscribe if you like this video and you want to watch more, and we could talk about this stuff together in the comment section all the time because I love discussion. I I don't know. This movie's just Anyway, don't pleasure yourself in the theater. There might be kids there. And watch the Lego movie instead, or Inside Out. They're a lot better. That's my review of the Emoji Movie. If I had to give an arbitrary movie rating that doesn't really mean anything, I'd give it a 5 out of 10. Maybe even a 4.5. That's about it. It's stupid. It's childish. It's basic, and it's almost insulting in how little effort it puts into what it's trying to do.